Alrighty, and we're on. Jimmy,
Right.
how are you?
How you doing, man?
I'm good. I'm good. So I'm here with Jimmy Trieu, and bit of an interesting story. So I was doing I had a podcast planned tonight with Paul Meldrum, and his missus had some health complications, so he helped me to get in contact with Jimmy. And then, as I was sort of looking through Jimmy's profile, I realised we knew a whole bunch of the same people. And so Jimmy worked on a movie last year with a couple of my friends, and I was on that movie as well, but I was in a different scene type thing. And but then the other person that Jimmy knew was one of my best friends, Pat. And Pat's wife is your cousin, correct?
He's my cousin. Yes, correct.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. So on which side? So is it the mum side, dad side?
It's my mum's brother's daughter. So
Your mum's
my mum's
brother's daughter. So she's
daughter.
your
Yeah,
first cousin, basically. Yeah.
first cousin, pretty much. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. And so for you growing up, so whereabouts in Sydney did you grow up? Did you grow up in Sydney?
Yeah, I was born in St Kilda, Melbourne, but then
Oh, nice.
family, yeah, my family moved to Wollongong, then Tingabi, then Cabramatta, and now we've been homebush for the last 20 odd years. So
Okay.
yeah.
Yeah. Wow. So you had plenty of moves then.
Yeah, but yeah, pretty much locally though. Yeah, so I'm an ABC.
Yeah. No, that's all right.
Yeah,
There's nothing wrong with
yeah.
that. And I guess so. What would be some of your earliest memories? So do you remember all the different places, or do you only really remember which place do you remember the most? I guess.
Um, Pretty much all of them. Like when we first moved to Wollongong from Melbourne, yeah, I remember my childhood with my five uncles. Um, they were still young, so they went to work, and my grandmother took care of me for about 3 months while my
Yep.
parents were working in Sydney.
Okay.
Um, then they took me back to Tingabi, and the whole family moved there, I think for about 20, 30 odd years we were there.
Yep.
And then we splintered off into Cabramatta, and then during the 5T years. Um,
You're right.
and then yeah, then we've been homebush for the last 20, and yeah, been stuck here ever since.
Yeah. Okay. And then so obviously each of those suburbs would have a pretty different feel as well, right? Like I grew up in the hills,
Oh,
and
right,
I
yeah.
guess so. One of my first uh, visits, like my parents, we used to go shopping in Cabramatta, like BKK and all that sort of stuff.
Yeah,
And
yeah,
then
yeah.
but I never really went by myself until I got when I was older. I think the first time I went back to Cabramatta would have been maybe in year 11 or 12 at that time. And I went because obviously, well, I was training martial arts, and then we had so we used to have a few different places where we used to train. So
Yeah.
the place where I was training, they rented out some different halls, and then on a Saturday night we used to have training at the Australian Chinese Teochew Association on Park Road in Cabra.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, and so when I was in high school, so I wasn't driving yet. So I remember because what happened was, I think it was maybe for Chinese New Year or something like that. And then, I was going to get a bit more involved with line dancing and things like that. So the guys were like, "Oh yeah, just come to Cabramatta." And I remember a guy named Hung, who used to train with us, and he actually passed away. It was quite sad. I think he had a car accident or something like that.
Oh, sorry to hear.
But Hung was the guy that said to me, "Oh, Johnny, come, I'll come grab you from the station because, if you haven't been before, you don't know where to go, right?"
Yeah,
I get to Cabra station and he's not there. And back then there's no mobile phones, right?
yeah.
I go to a payphone and I try and call this guy, and he's like, "Oh yeah, don't worry, just walk down this street, and turn here and turn there and you'll be there," right? So I'm like, "Oh
Mm.
shit, okay." So I start walking through Cabramatta, and I swear to you, one of my most distinct memories of that was that I can't remember which road it was that I was walking down, but it would have been just one of the roads walking down from the station, and there was this red Corolla, and in this red Corolla there was, I don't know, three people. I think it was like one girl, two guys, or something like that, but they were junkies,
Oh,
and
shit.
yeah, and so somebody had OD'd in the car, and
Oh,
they were freaking out about, "Oh shit, we need to go get this guy help." And I'm walking past, never really exposed to this stuff as I was growing up, because, for me, I lived in St Clair as a young kid from
yeah.
0 to 10, and then in the hills post that. So I didn't really never really experience any of that. And so I was walking past going, "Where the hell am I? Like, this is very odd," right?
because I
So,
walk out my front door, I see syringes, and it's just another day. So,
so well, let's talk about that. So, how old were you when you guys moved to Cabramatta?
um, what time? I can't remember. I think I was about 9 or 10.
Hmm.
So we went to a public school called Fairvale, so between Fairfield and Canley Vale, Fairvale.
Yep.
So,
Yep.
so public school was good. It wasn't until I went to high school when you start to, yeah, things were completely different.
Yep.
A lot of the young kids were 5T members. You had to make sure you were on their good side, and there was a lot of violence.
Yep.
And if you were white, oh man, good luck to you. It's pretty bad.
Yeah.
Um, but I was only there for 3 years, and then midway through, I moved to Homebush Boys, so that was completely different.
Yeah. That would have
Yeah,
changed the whole outlook on things too, right? Like,
yeah, yeah, you had to be more studious because
yep.
back then I was just trying to fit in pretty much. Because I was still the awkward kid back then. And yeah, and just trying to not get stabbed pretty much.
Yeah. Well, I think back then it was like, yeah, trolley poles. So people used to kick the poles out of, the handlebar of the trolley. So they used to kick
Uh,
the hand the of like, the shopping trolleys.
yeah, yeah,
So yeah, people used to kick those out because they're obviously metal and they're hit hard. And then,
yeah,
obviously, knives and machetes were pretty common, you know.
yeah, yeah. So yeah, it was a good change. I think yeah, my parents were pretty scared, so they took us out of there quickly. So
Yeah, fair enough.
yeah.
So when you say you were an awkward kid, what do you mean by that? Like, what do you think made you awkward?
Um, so socially, I wasn't fully mature yet. Like, if a girl talked to me, I would just pretty much swear at her. It was a weird reaction.
Okay.
I told her to F off. And then, yeah, just because from public school to high school, your friends kind of didn't follow you along.
Yeah.
I had a few friends, so I stuck to that main group. And then you got this other group, which is, extreme. So you try not to get too involved. So I just became pretty much withdrawn and shy a bit.
Mm,
Um, but then when I went to Homebush Boys, kind of hung out with the year below me, the kids, because I went to Chinese school with them. So I
okay.
was yeah, so I was hanging out with the people in my year for about 6 months.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, now the guys in my year, I've been friends with them for like 28 years now. So
Yeah.
um, it just took a while to warm up. So
Yeah. Okay. So, were you always at Chinese language school? Like, so did your parents start you in that when you were young?
yeah, I went to Chinese school, but man, I didn't learn anything. I mean, I don't know if you went, but because we
Yeah.
went we went so much later, like around 8 or 9. It was just too late to learn.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah,
I went from a young age. So, I would say I was pretty good up until, year six, because then my
yeah,
parents pulled me out for a bit to then focus on like the selective schools exam.
yeah,
And then I think, after that, I probably just got left behind a little bit. And,
yeah.
like when you don't enjoy something, it doesn't really, as a
No,
kid,
yeah,
if you don't enjoy it, it's really hard to connect and engage with it.
yeah, exactly. The funny
Yeah.
thing is, when I went to uni, I actually did 3 years of it, so it was easy to
Oh,
learn.
really?
So,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah. So then you had to, you find you're caught up again.
yeah, but then I didn't use it for a few years, and now it's pretty rusty now. So.
Yeah. No,
Yeah.
fair enough. Fair enough. So then, in high school, how would you would you still describe yourself as the awkward kid, or did that sort of change for you once you
Uh,
sort of establish your friends and things like that?
yeah, to fit in, I think I was more of the joker. So
Okay.
I used humor to kind of draw people to me. So I was a butt of all jokes. So I didn't mind, so it was a good way to make friends. Um, I think it's a good thing because now I can, make fun of myself pretty easily and
Yeah.
not take things too seriously, which is good.
Yeah.
Uh, but yeah, sometimes the kids will take it too far. So, you get a few fist fights and, some scratches and some blood. But then at the end of the day, boys will be boys. So yeah,
Yeah. Yeah. I think fights are a part of growing up, right?
yeah, definitely,
So,
man. Yeah, got to be in a few. So
so I also think that, once you, and I don't know about you, but like one of my best friendships came out of having a fight with Blue. Like, we were bullying over something. I guess it's probably like, we're both, alphas or something like that.
yeah, yeah.
And we got into a punch up, and then after that we became friends. Don't know how it happened, but you just sort of squashed the beef. And move on.
Yeah, you pretty much just got your aggression out, and then that's it. That's it.
Yeah. So, you know, I was just expanding on that, right? Like, so the guy that I got into a fight with was actually part of the reason why I started this podcast, right? So Adrian Wu, he was one of my best mates in high school, and he committed suicide a couple of years ago.
Oh, shit.
Yeah, he actually, funny you should say you went to Homebush and lived in Homebush. He was living in Homebush for a large part of his life, and that's where he actually, jumped in front of a train.
Oh,
And so it was like Easter, just after Easter 2019. But like when we were young, I think in year 7, for some reason, we didn't like each other. Whether, I don't know what I did to offend age or whatever, but we didn't get along at the start. And what happened was, like, it sort of, the climax was fairly simple. It was like, I was eating one of those little snacks where you get the biscuit and you got the cream cheese.
yeah, 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 the snack.
And so I've grabbed the biscuit and I've taken the cheese, and then I flicked it at him, and it's landed on his shorts. And,
Oh,
and then after that, then he punched me in the head, and like I didn't retaliate at the time. Like I was probably more in shock that he started punching me in the head. And then after that, then it's like, we sort of, I think we might have teased each other for a few more days, and after that we just sort of became friends after that. That's how I became really good friends with him. I don't know why, but that's just what happened. But part of the reason why I started the podcast was, I started to think about, when are you really gone? And it's not when you actually die, it's when people forget who you are. So part of the reason why I do the podcast is because I get to talk about some of those things and share some of those stories, because then, there's always a part of him that's always around.
awesome.
Yeah. So, when you were in high school, so you mentioned you studied Chinese when you went to university. Was that something that you always had in your mind, or what were you thinking you were going to study?
I didn't know what I wanted to do, so I did University of Sydney had this new degree called a Bachelor of Liberal Arts.
Yep.
So you could choose, mix and match any subjects you wanted. So, you could choose biology, chemistry, mix it with some sort of language. So what happened the first 2 years, I was just trying everything. I was doing psychology, chemistry, mathematics. In the end, I just stuck to languages. I found it a bit more easy. I did Japanese and mostly Mandarin, and then did ancient Chinese and Chinese poetry, and then Buddhism. I mean, I didn't mean for it. I didn't enjoy half of it really. I just needed the credit points to pass. So, but yeah, Chinese I really enjoyed because you could appreciate it more as you got older, and the teachers were much better rather than just shouting at you. Back in Chinese school, until you do homework stuff. But yeah, I mean, it wasn't the best degree I could have got, but it was good memories. So, but from then on, I just went on, went into the IT field, because I went back to TAFE and got my networking diploma.
Okay.
And then went back to UTS, did my master's. So just went full circle.
Wow.
So,
yep.
Yeah.
Okay. I'm kind of curious about this because, not everyone has had, been fortunate enough to experience both the TAFE tertiary learning and university tertiary learning, right? I did, because I did, a mechanic apprenticeship at the same time I was studying at uni, right? And I always would say to my wife, that I really appreciated my time at TAFE, because for me, what I found was TAFE was very hands-on.
Very practical, yes. Yeah.
Yeah. Did you find the same thing? Like, it was very different, right?
Yeah, it's very practical. It's you've got the resources, and it's a bit more intimate, I think, because you're there with the same group of people every day, with the same teacher every day. Whereas uni, you've got like, I don't know, 10 different lecturers trying to scribble notes. There was no internet or phones back then, so you had to write everything down during a lecture, which was a pain in the ass.
Yeah.
And then you can't even read your writing. So, but yeah, completely different. I would recommend, like, university isn't the end all be all, I reckon, because I'm a personal trainer now. So in the end, the degree didn't matter.
Yeah.
So I changed career paths anyway. So, but it's a good experience. I think if you want to go that way, then go through it. Especially if you want to become more of a specialized field. But TAFE is, this is also a stepping stone. You can use that to get to uni as well. So kids these days are a bit more stressed, I think, because there's a bit more competition going on.
Mm.
But they shouldn't have to worry too much about it. It's more about, I guess, your skill set rather than
Yeah.
what you got on paper, really. So
yeah, absolutely. So when you went back to UTS and did your masters, what was the masters in?
it was network engineering again.
Network
So
engineering. Okay.
but I only did 1 year because I was working full time as a network engineer, and then staying up late trying to do more study and online exams, and then I just gave it up after a year. Really. So
Yeah. So then, tell me more about so when you went into the workplace, right? So was that after TAFE? So, or was that during TAFE that you got that job?
yeah. So after TAFE, I think what I do, I went into I was in help desk, so I was just building computers. And then I think I went into a help desk job in the city where I was just getting parts back and trying to repair them or try to send them back to the manufacturers, get replacements for people.
Yeah.
And then I worked at ASA, just building computers again. So it's pretty labor-intensive jobs, really. It wasn't very too skilled.
Yeah.
Wasn't until that my cousin, who also Adam, he completed his So Adam is Nancy's cousin, but not Nancy's
Yep.
brother, by the way.
Yeah, that's right.
He finished TAFE as well. Did the same diploma I did a few years back, and then he got a job at Brennan IT, and then he called me up and goes, "Hey, there's a role available." I'm like, "Okay, cool." So yeah, I got a job there, and I was there for 8.5 years as a
Wow.
provisioning network engineer. Yeah, it was good, but then I think after about 4 or 5 years, I felt like it wasn't something I wanted to do for the rest of my life.
Yep.
Because it was just quite stressful, really.
Mm.
So I had 6 months of leave saved up, and I quit when I did my personal training certificate. So
Okay.
yeah.
So okay, so tell me more about that, because it's not like it's an easy decision to just go and say, I've had enough. It's a build up, right?
It's a build. It's a build up. So maybe 2 or 3 years into the role, me and Adam would go to the gym every lunchtime and work out. Quite enjoyed it, but kept hurting my back because obviously my technique wasn't that great. But then I got to learn more, hired a personal trainer, and then people would, because they sort of changing me because I was getting a bit more buffer and bigger, and then they're like, can you train me? And then for like 3 years they kept badgering me to go quit my job and become a PT, and then one day I just bit the bullet and go, you know what? Yeah, let's go for it. So I quit, and 6 months of study at AIF.
Mm-hmm.
It wasn't easy because when I got a job, I only made 10 grand in my first year before tax.
Wow.
Yeah, so it's a bit of a downgrade from my previous salary.
Yeah.
But then the next year I made 80-90K, I think, and then from there on, I haven't looked back. But then obviously COVID has kind of killed my business a little bit.
Yeah.
So hopefully after lockdown I can rebuild it again. So
yeah. So okay, let's slow it down and just talk to me about that first year. So you go and spend 6 months at the AIF. You study this personal training course, right? And then I'm guessing you then had to go through your process of registering your ABN and doing all those bits and pieces.
Yeah. So you had a choice. You could either work for any particular gym, so your Virgin, Fitness First, Anytime Fitness. So what AIF has is a flyer night. So there's all these industry people coming around trying to employ new PTs.
Mm-hmm.
And then there was one guy there called John Field. He can talk the talk. He could still ice the Eskimos. He says, "Come work for me at Fitness First." And he goes, "I'll mentor you. I'll pay half your rent." Yada yada yada. So I stayed on him for a year. It was a really good eye opener because being a personal trainer is 95% sales. It's not about being the best PT there is, because you've got to get clients, and the only way to get clients is to talk to people. So every week I would try to talk to at least 50 people. So, and how I said I was an awkward kid, this was where the job was my turning point, and I became much more confident in myself. Because you had to learn that skill, like to be able to become successful in your business. But the thing is, the pay wasn't that great. That's what the time was. So I went on my own the second year, built my own business, learned what I learned, and then became a pretty successful PT, I guess.
So then, in your second year, so you obviously had left Fitness. Did you leave Fitness First, or you were still there, but then just
No, I was
on
still in
your own?
Fitness. So I was working under him within Fitness First. So
Yep.
so I left him, but I was now out on my own as my own contractor.
Yep.
So I had to pay my own rents,
Yep.
my own bills and stuff like that, and then just try to get my own leads. So
Yep.
yeah, so it's a bit of a grind, the job, but I enjoy it. There's less stress.
Yep.
I enjoy it a lot. Yeah,
Yep.
wouldn't go back to
So,
anything else.
so in that when at that stage where you're building up your own clientele, right? Like you're sort of learning by trial and error in terms of how to sell, right?
Pretty much, yeah. Like each year, my methodology will change because you'll be learning something new.
Yeah.
I've had 5 mentors since Paul is my
Yep.
current one. I've
Yep.
stuck with him the longest. So yeah. But I've also been to a lot of workshops. I've bought a lot of programs to try. You got to figure out what's right for your client. Yeah. So there's no one size fits all thing.
I'm really, I'm kind of curious about that because, I think nowadays everybody wants that. Everybody's looking for the silver bullet. They want to have that. Oh, what's that one exercise I can do, or what's the one thing that I can do that will make a difference. But then, yes, there is probably an 80% factor. There's something that you could do that could give you an 80% outcome, but that just comes down to where are you starting from? Are you starting from this baseline where you're doing nothing? And so any positive lifestyle change is going to give you a large result, or are you starting from this baseline where you're already, at a sort of decent level, and so to extract the gains or extract the improvements that you're looking for, they're going to be incremental. Like there's no more low hanging fruit. Now it's about detail. It's about So
like each person. Yeah.
Sorry, what were you going to say?
Oh, each person is different, so there's no one fit. You've got to really work with the client and figure out what's best for them, and then what they can agree to. I mean, obviously you can't give them something, and if they don't want to do it, they're not going to get results. So you kind of have to work with them. Yeah.
Did they give you any sort of sales training or tips? Like, I guess you mentioned that you had five mentors. So I'm just sort of curious, what sort of things that you sort of developed along the way.
So first one was John, the first guy I'd worked with, and then there was one called Create Wealth PT. So you pay, I don't know, 15 grand a year or something like that. And I'll give you one phone call a fortnight, and off you go. I'm like, wasn't that great, man? Half an hour, like a 10-minute phone call, and that's it. And they'll give you some tools and stuff, but it didn't fit the way my business wanted to run. So I'm more of a hands-on trainer. And the way I get my clients is through classes and stuff. So because Fitness First doesn't really help their PTs that much. Well, my particular gym anyway. The third one's pretty good. She was more onto the empathetic side of things because I was going through a rough period, and that was being pushed onto my clients, which they could feel as well. So I was going through a breakup. So she's helping me kind of not expose as much of it as possible and just try to focus more on the business. And then there's Paul. Paul's more of a sit your ass down, shut up, do your stuff, and here's the facts. And I found that's the most effective period.
You need that guy to get you on the pathway.
Yeah, which is good because that's made me do the same thing to my clients, because I'll be like, no, you want to lose 5 kilos, then stop eating crap, go for a walk, do these things here. I just give them the facts. I can't fluff it, because that's not what they're paying for. They're paying you for a service, and you can't just be kind of bullshitting to them. So
I like that. That really resonates for me because so I, me being in the car industry, I've had to go through sales and learn, what are the I guess all the different styles of selling. There's many different methodologies of selling, and I guess in our industry we call it the road to a sale. And we have like these progressive steps that we try to take a customer through to get to the end result, which is obviously to get a sale and to then provide them with a service or own the car. So and a lot of guys do this. They come into our industry because you don't need a lot of education to be a car salesman, right? So a lot of people look at it and they go, oh, as long as I'm happy to give up my weekends, I can potentially earn a 6-figure salary based on my my commission to then just talk to people and sell cars. And on the simplistic view, it could be that. And if you're good at it, some people are naturally enjoy talking to people. You can generate a lot of income like that. But I think one of the things that I think stands out, and this sort of speaks to your field as well, is that the better you are at building relationships, the better it is for you longer term, because it's all good and well to go and sell, let's say you sell, I don't know, 15 cars a month, but then if none of those customers ever want to come back to you and purchase another vehicle from you, then all that time and investment, you're basically you're not really, you're a hunter, you're hunting every day of the week to make a living. And then when the market conditions change, so as an example, we come into COVID, and we're no longer able to hunt because people can't just go shopping for retail. They can't come into your showroom. You're now at a disadvantage because you never really looked after all those people that you've already dealt with previously.
Exactly.
The equity is in building the relationship, and so that transparency approach that Paul sort of advocates is something that really resonates for me. I always try and encourage my guys. Like, there's no point trying to present a picture that isn't going to be suitable for the customer. You're better off being transparent about it, because at the end of the day, people are entitled to shop. People are going to go and try many PTs. People are going to go and visit other dealerships. But if they feel that they've been looked after by this one person better than at the other place, well, hopefully you like to think that they're going to come back and want to deal with you, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
So it's almost like if a client was looking for a PT and then they're like, oh, Jimmy, what do you charge? And then they go, oh, the other guy's cheaper, I'm going to go with him. But then at the end of the day, what result do you want?
Exactly. Yeah. I charge what I think I'm worth, and sometimes you got to let the potential client go because you can't sell yourself short. So that's the other thing.
Well, I think the other thing, in a business that's like PT, right? You're in a service-based industry where you've only got a finite amount of hours per week. Yeah.
Exactly.
So if you're going to work, say, a 40-hour week, then your income is literally 40 times whatever your hourly rate is.
That's right. Yeah.
If you're now then fluctuating in terms of what your hourly rate is based on who's asking or whatever, then it becomes very difficult for you to have any sort of clarity and transparency in terms of what you're going to make at the end of the week, right?
Exactly. Yeah. You've got to store different numbers everywhere. We just want to make sure that it's just consistent and it just makes it easier for you. So
yeah. So okay, how did the martial arts come into it? Because I know obviously you're into martial arts as well.
Yeah, I think back in 2009, I think it was. Sunday Herald had a little, they had that little magazine inside the newspaper. I was reading about Jiao Gao Kung Fu. This was like early in the year of 2009, I think. And then I was reading about it, and I saw Sifu Randy Bennett. He's got these pictures, he's jumping in the air. And I went from 55 kilos to like 80 kilos over 4 years. So I was just fat. So I needed to do something. And this was also in my second year of my IT job. So when I made a pact to myself that I would do it as a New Year's resolution, I would do martial arts in 2009. So when December, I think it was December, hit around, I was like, oh shit, better get onto it. So I went for my first lesson, and what I found was I had a really good affinity for it. Like I was, I'm quite decent, even though I'm a newbie. So, and then from then on, the Sifu Randy kind of saw something in me, plus the four Toldais, his disciples, kind of nurtured me a bit as well. And really enjoyed it. I've been there for 13, 14 years now. So I do assistant instructing on weekends as well. So so there's a lot of line dancing and a lot of performances. Been pretty cool.
And do you enjoy the performance?
No, I hate being out in public, man, seriously. And the thing is, I go so fast that it's over within like less than a minute and I'm out. I just want to run out of the crowd.
It's a very interesting feeling, so obviously at the place that I was with at Wuchuan, we would have annual performances because every Chinese New Year we're performing at Temple. I think you guys probably do the same thing. So when you've done so many performances, it sort of, you don't even really, it becomes normal, right? Like the pressure, you sort of just, it just doesn't really happen anymore. Like I don't really feel any pressure when I perform or when I speak in public or anything like that, because, you know, I was exposed to it so much. But I still remember, you know, when we'd have some of the more junior kids having to do their performance, they'd be so nervous. And they'd obviously, you know, be wanting to perform their best and do a good demonstration. And, you know, it's really interesting, because it's one of those things that you adjust so quickly to that sort of pressure. You know, once you've gone through it a few times, you may not like it, right? Like not everybody likes it, right? Like some people might be very good at performance and competitions and things like that, but actually dislike the feeling of it. And it's more like the anxiety and the fear that they dislike.
That's right.
And, you know, it's almost like doing an exam, right? You get to that point where you studied so much that you just want to get it over and done with. Right? So I can appreciate that perspective, right? But I always like I always like turning that sort of anxious feeling into excitement, you know.
Right.
And then, you know, when the drums are going, and then you get really pumped up, and like it becomes so fun. Like it builds such a great atmosphere.
For you, yes. For me, the noise drowns out, and I'm just nervous as hell. I'm just going, I've got to get this done now, right? At all.
Yeah, everybody handles it differently. But
definitely, yeah.
Okay, interesting. Because I never really. I'm sure at the start I probably had, you know, nerves much like yourself. But I don't really know when that sort of changed for me. Like I do remember, because we used to travel to China for competitions and things like that, doing demonstrations and all that sort of stuff. And I remember, you know, when I was on the edge of the mat, you know, about to go on and do my demonstration, you know, I get a very distinct feeling, you know, like it's like, and I don't know whether it's like visualization or anything like that. Like, yeah, I'd probably visualize the form, you know, 100 times in my head, and, you know, what they're going to look like, and then prepared for, you know, am I on that mat? Am I on that mat? Which one am I facing? And you go through all those things. But I really feel like there's a switch that I enjoy flicking anyway when it comes to performance. So, you know, when it's line dancing, it's the same thing. You know, I try and flick this switch and, you know, get into that, I guess, what you'd call a flow state, right? Like, you know, everybody knows, I guess, what a flow state is. But
line dancing, yes, because I'm covered. My face is shown, so it's easy to do line dancing. But the actual weapons and the empty hand forms that have freaked me out. So.
So I guess, you know, from that, you know, with the martial arts side of things, did that influence how you approach your PTing and your coaching from that aspect as well?
No, not particularly. It did give me more confidence in the way that that I would present myself, really. It was actually PT that gave me the complete confidence at all. So that's because, you know, you have to talk to people running classes. Like the first few months I was quite nervous, but then you know, I just yell at people and I love it. So yeah. And I get pissed at a lot of them because they're doing the wrong thing, and I really get pissed at them. And
were you doing boot camps or were you doing classes?
You know, it was just classes. But like if they're mucking around and stuff, I tell them to, you know, stop mucking around, get out of my class and stuff like that. But then I apply that to my classes that I run at Kung Fu now, because I run more of the conditioning classes as a PT.
Yep. Okay.
So I apply that to that, and then the way I teach, because I'm a boxing coach as well, I apply all that towards the Kung Fu side of things. So I mix kind of PT with martial arts teaching and try to amalgamate it.
Yep.
Not like the old school style Kung Fu, because I don't think I've very been exposed to it. I know Sifu Randy used to really hammer the students back in his day. So I kind of came in at a good time where it was a bit more happy. But PT, and then the Kung Fu got better, and then people have enjoyed the classes a bit more, which is, it's been pretty good.
Yeah. It's one of those things, I think, it's a balancing act for martial arts schools as well, because, you know, I think like back when I first started training, it was very, very difficult. Like traditional classes were very, very difficult. And, you know, a lot of people would puke in their first class, you know, because their body just wasn't used to that exercise, right? And it's probably the same thing that you probably see it in PTing. If you get like a first timer and you're putting them through the paces, they get sick and they want to puke.
There's a few, even though it's even just really light stuff, they'll start to pass out. I'm like, okay, these guys are very, very new. So.
Yeah. Yeah, but it's amazing how how many people get that sort of feeling, and then it's like as you encourage them to keep coming back and they get better and better and better, like they progress, and then they don't really then they're looking at the next generation of people who come in and turn green and want to puke and can't keep up. But I feel like over time, it's a very fine balance, because for a martial arts school, if the training's too hard, you lose a lot of people as well, right?
You do.
So it becomes one of those catch-22s, because if you don't have enough people training, you can't really teach an art. But on the flip side, if the training's so easy that people don't develop enough, then it's not really a good representation of the art as well.
Yeah, so that's where our school has had to kind of modify every year the forms and the techniques a little bit, just to make sure that it's challenging enough, but not too challenging that we lose a new student straight off the bat. So, but yeah, it's yeah.
Sorry, what were you going to say?
No. Yeah, you go on. That's it.
Oh, I was just gonna ask you. You mentioned that you got your boxing training certification. So how did you get that? Who was that with?
That was with Punch Fit.
Okay.
Yeah, I did 2-day workshop with them. It was brutal because they'll make you do 2-minute rounds of shadow boxing and hitting pads for 2 days straight. But I think boxing is probably the main fundamental that everyone should learn in every martial art, because it teaches you the fighting stance, footwork, hand placement, guard. It's very basic, but it's very, very necessary, really. And I find that applying that to my kung fu has made me a better sparring. My sparring's been much better. So yeah. But then now a lot of my female clients love boxing, just love hitting me a lot. So
yeah. No, it's like, I think it's one of those things that people like to channel aggression, right? And even like people who you look at and then they go, oh, they're not aggressive at all. Once you pull out the pads and they feel like they can start belting something, all the inner demons come out.
It is. It's a good outlet for them, because they can punch me. I'm all padded up. It's okay. But I think it's a good way to release any stress they might have as well. So.
I want to just go back on a point that you mentioned, and you did mention that you're going through a tough period where your personal life was impacting your PTing, right? So you're going through a breakup and things like that. At what point did you realize that, hey, this is actually hurting you more than it should? Like, I guess when I say that, I mean, like, did you come to a point where you realized, shit, this isn't good because it's now impacting my professional life? Or so I guess how did it sort of come about for you?
I think there was one session where I got angry at a client, like just angry while I was training her, and I'm thinking, God, this is like, I'm not providing a service. I'm just berating my client, really. So I have to step back and just look at what I'm doing. Like, this is not how you run a business. Like, you don't, like, a physio wouldn't yell at his client for not doing a particular exercise or anything like that. And so that was just kind of, what's the word? Just imposing my negativity onto them as well, and they could feel it, and they weren't enjoying the session as well. So, and then my third or fourth mentor, she actually drove me to a cemetery. Where is it? Somewhere one of the beaches. It's on a cliff, and we just sat there for like an hour, and it just made me kind of think about what was happening in my life, and it was just quiet. It was serene, really. So if you ever get stressed out, sit in the cemetery and look out at the ocean.
But she didn't give you a shovel and say start digging, right?
Yeah. So I was just reflecting on everything, and that helped a lot. And I think you also need a support system as well. So you shouldn't internalize everything that much. For me, I didn't have anyone to talk to, because it's something that I don't usually talk to people about. Because I had her, I was able to express things out, and then she kind of helped me along the way as well.
Yeah. Did she I guess what I'm curious about, when you're talking about some of those issues, was it do you think it was more important that you just had an outlet to get it out, or is it that you had, yeah?
You need an outlet. You need something. You can't just, compress it inside your system. You've got to let it out, even if it's just talking to someone, really. It helps a lot. That's why as a PT, like I'll listen, because we're pretty much therapists.
Yeah.
They're just get all their problems out of the way, and then working out at the same time. And it helps, like even just a 10-minute vent, and they'll feel better throughout the rest of the day. So
yeah, that's right.
So don't, I guess, if you can, just find some sort of support, really, no matter what, how small it is.
Yeah. Well, stress is also a big factor in terms of, why people, struggle with, trying to lose weight and things like that, right? Like it comes down to, sleep, eating, so nutrition, sleep, and then obviously reducing stress, right?
Exactly. Yeah. But that they sometimes fail because they're kind of in a vicious cycle, where if they're stressed, they'll eat more, and they'll eat more because they're stressed, and then there's no guidance that they'll receive when they're on their own. As a client, I think they should try to seek support, even if it's like, because I offer free sessions as well, like if they want to trial me as well. So most people should be able to offer that. So if they want to just trial someone and then just chat, see what underlying problems there are, and then that should help them a little bit at least as well.
Yeah. So then when it comes to, your, because you mentioned, your style with your clients has changed, obviously, as you've gotten more knowledge and through these different mentors. Do you now have it, do you sort of find yourself having a more specific process now, or do you still sort of just, it really depends?
No, I've got a specific process. So I will sit down with a client first session, just to assess them. Obviously, you physically assess them first, see what they're capable of, and then you go into the more psychological stuff, maybe what's holding them back, or what are their goals. Could be sometimes even IVF, which is quite stressful. And then you try to get as much information as you can, and then you build that upon the second session, where you try to take all that information and try to build a suitable session for them and see if it suits them. And then the second session is also to build a rapport between me and the potential client. And if we don't work out, then we don't work out. It's best that if we're having a clash, then it's best not to go forward. Most of the time, because I'm quite empathetic, so most of the time they'll come on board, and then I'll try to work out a system for them. There will be times where it won't work, I'll be honest. Like I said, there's no one size fits all. Sometimes there's an underlying issue where I might have missed, and it's something that they will never let me know, and they won't get the results that they want. So, and then I have to refer to another trainer, or we part ways. So okay, I guess two things. Like, I guess I want to talk about, what are some of the highlights for you? I guess when have you felt the best about, your progress that a client's made? I'm just curious if there's a story attached to that, because, for me, in the car industry, I always remember, I always, can remember back on notable sales, both good and bad. I can remember bad experience as well. So, I had this one where we sold this used car to a lady when I was at a Holden dealership, and the car wasn't workshop right. Okay. And so at the time, I think, whether we had sold it, we'd advertised it too quickly before the car had gone through the workshop and done everything that was supposed to have gone through. But for whatever reason, it was missed, and the car's been delivered to this lady. And she, boy, did she teach me a lesson, right? Like she absolutely belted me about it, and, ran me through the legal ringer. Like, we didn't actually end up going to fair trading or anything like that, but she just basically had stepped out, all the bits and pieces, and, it was embarrassing for me, right? And I think, at that age, when I was, a leader of that company, I probably was too egotistical and not empathetic enough to actually go back and go, hey, there's a problem, because obviously somewhere in our process we stuffed this up, which has now caused this massive issue. I was more focused on the issue as opposed to focus on the process.
So, for me, I always remember like, the notable highlights and the lowlights.
Yeah.
I guess, do you mind sharing, I guess a highlight and a low light for you in your PT career?
So a low light would be a client berating me on the floor where everyone could hear me.
Oh,
So
wow. Okay. So
really
what happened?
like, she was traveling a lot for work, which means she was just eating takeout a lot.
Yeah.
So she was in the end, she was just forced to eat like takeout vegetables and rice. That's it. But she doesn't understand that, you know, the oil that the vegetables are cooked in is quite high in fat. She's not eating enough actually. She's actually by eating less, she's causing more stress on her body. So she's, hormones are out of whack. So, and then one day she snapped, just yelled at me, "I'm not losing weight." Everyone's just staring. So that was embarrassing as hell.
Mm.
Um, and that's when I realized, yeah, maybe I'm not the best trainer for you. Might be best to refer you to someone else.
Yeah.
So that was a big clash there.
Did you,
Highlight was,
how did, sorry, like when that situation happened and it's on the floor, right?
yeah,
How did you de-escalate that situation? Like, were you very calm about it, or did
I
you?
was calm. Yeah,
So,
I mean, you can't react, so you have to
yeah,
just calmly try to calm it down, and then sit down together and just calmly chat again. Just try to get it down to your level, really,
yeah,
and then discuss that maybe the way that her lifestyle is there's not much more I can do because
yeah,
it's been a month already, and she's not losing much weight at all.
yeah.
So and then yeah, so that's where we parted ways. So
Okay.
you try to part on, you don't want to burn bridges. So you try to part
Yeah,
as amicably as you can.
yeah,
But yeah, no, that was I felt like shit for like weeks because I didn't do my job.
yeah,
I actually failed.
yeah.
Didn't even exist a little bit. So yeah, that was a good learning point though. So and then yeah, that was
Okay.
the worst one.
Yeah,
Best one was I had a lady. She was training 3 times a day, 6 times a week, not losing any weight at all. So I just wrote her a little meal plan and I told her to only train 4 times a week,
okay.
and she lost 10 kilos in a week. So
How
because the
many
body
kilos?
too,
2 kilos. Okay. Yep.
because the body was just under so much stress, so she didn't understand
Yep.
that she could train as hard as she want. She should lose weight easy, but she didn't understand that her body was under so much stress that it was just keeping water retention. Muscles were flared up, hormones out of whack as well. So, and then yeah, she was eternally grateful. Wrote this long ass message to me. I posted on Instagram. You find it on my Instagram, and then yeah, that was a good highlight. And all I did like half an hour of work, really.
Yeah.
Just wrote her a little food guides. That was it. Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. Interesting. It's there's a quote I always like to, or like an analogy I always like to think of, right? And it's that, water can only flow into open surfaces, right? So if you think about like a tile, if the tile is sealed, you can pour water on it, it's not going to go in, right?
yeah, right.
So it's the same thing as your mindset. If your mind is sealed, you ain't going to take in that knowledge, and sometimes you may not require a whole bunch of different knowledge. You might just need that one point. So just like how you found it was just just do that one little meal plan and adjust the exercise, actually wind it back a touch,
Yeah,
got you a great result.
yeah,
But on the flip side, you had this other lady who, was trying to listen, but at the same time, had other factors going on in her lifestyle.
yeah.
That it becomes very easy to, because when people are paying for something, they feel like, oh, because I'm paying for it, the result should be instant, right? But in
Exactly.
in PTing, you still need to do the work, right?
Exactly, because we just provide the tools. We don't actually do the work for you. So,
Yeah,
they don't understand that sometimes. So yeah, it can be a little stressful sometimes as well. So yeah,
yeah, yeah.
yeah.
Okay. So, ha- I guess I want to talk a little bit about Shang Chi because obviously, you got to have a good time on set there.
Yeah, it's pretty good.
How did that come about for you?
So I don't know if it was the same for your school, but they were I think the casting guys were putting flyers on all the kung fu schools or all the
Yep.
martial arts schools.
Yeah, sending out
Um,
texts and things like that. Yep.
yeah, so it was called Steamboat. We don't know what it
Yep.
was. It's a bit weird name for a production company.
Yep.
So we went for an audition. I think also we were part of the third wave. I think
Okay.
each wave has about 100 people or something like that. I don't know.
Yeah. Yep.
So yeah, that's where I met Jimmy. Jimmy he had a resting bitch face. I didn't really get to know him that well that day. So long hair, big sword. So me, him, and a few others. I think only 20 of us got through out of
Yeah.
a few hundred people, and that's where
But
I met Andy.
if you were there with Jimmy, I would have been there too. Because was David there?
No, David
Because
wasn't
it
there.
Oh, so it must have been a different wave then. Okay, because
Yeah,
the day that I went was me, Jimmy, David, Josh, Josh Trieu. I don't know if you know Josh.
no,
Um,
not sure.
um, I'm pretty like yeah, because he was on the film too, so I'm pretty sure you would have met him.
Okay.
But yeah, Joshy works for me as well. So
Oh, Josh, yes, yes, yeah, I remember Josh. Yeah, I remember Josh. Yeah,
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 so
yeah.
we the four of us and Peter actually, one of our mates, Peter, we went on the same day. So that must, I don't know what day that was that you went on, but it was
That the
obviously
day
one of the
where you
later.
had to do the staff choreography with Eddie
Yep.
Chang and
Yep.
okay, might have been the same day then. Yeah,
Okay.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
So yeah, and then and Jimmy James was on the same day as us as well.
Oh, I didn't see him that day. I don't know. I don't remember that day. It was just a blur that day. So
Okay.
just trying to get
Yep.
through the audition. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. So that was pretty fun. Got to meet Andy Chang, uh, Master Tang. I think was there as well. No, not Master Tang. Just Andy Chang, and then I think it was Jimmy Wang.
Okay.
Uh, he's a Tai Chi master apparently, so he did all the choreography as well. So the good thing was that a staff is my favorite weapon, so
Yep.
that choreography was quite easy for me,
Yep.
luckily. What did you do? What did you do for your 3 set or your freestyle?
Yeah. So I did here's what I did. I did a weapons. Obviously I did my open hand form. It
Yeah,
was quite funny when like so the first part where you do your open hand form, like I think Andy was there. Yeah, Andy was on the first section. And so I
yeah,
only got to do like my first 12 moves, and Andy's like, okay, go next. Because he was like, yeah, thin
yeah,
enough,
quick.
good enough. Yeah.
Yeah.
So a few of us we just went straight to the next part. And then I think I just did I did a weapons form. I think I did broadsword that day.
Okay.
Um yeah, I think I might have done broadsword and another open hand form and then straight to the dark choreography.
Yeah.
But yeah, like so what happened for me was um I got so when they first started filming, I was actually going overseas. So I
Oh,
went with my family over to Malaysia. So I actually missed the first session,
uh,
well, I guess that first scene that they were doing. And so then it was pretty hard for me. So I actually ended up doing 1 day of filming. So I had one really long day, which was the day that we had Wong versus Abomination on that day. So I was
oh,
filming on that
really?
day.
Oh,
Yeah. So
awesome.
I was well, I don't know. I haven't seen the movie yet, so I'm somewhere in the background there of that scene. Right?
So,
Yeah, well, we're in lockdown, I can't go and see shit.
yeah.
So and then when it came to the other ones, then like I couldn't do it. Like for me, it was pretty hard to try and take a month off to go and do the
Yeah.
big shoot at the end. So I'm stewing because I feel like I missed out a lot, but at the same time I was like, well, like it's fun, but it's not my livelihood. Like I'm not trying to make a career out of that. So
Yeah.
I ended up picking work because obviously I run a business, so I need to be there.
That's
So I
true.
let Joshy go, and Joshy was out of the office for like a month. But he was like
Oh,
he was like
right.
working 7 days straight. So Josh would do obviously filming Monday to Friday, and then Saturday and Sunday he'd come into the office to work. So
I remember now. Yeah, you called him out of it. I think he had to miss the last few days of shooting because he
uh,
had to come back. Yeah, is that right?
no, I think it was a convenient excuse for Josh.
Oh,
So
okay.
I think it was like Josh was like, I'm so sore, I don't want to do it anymore. I've
Yeah.
done enough. So yeah, so it could have been just a convenient excuse. I'll pull him up on that when I do a podcast with him. I'll ask him.
Yeah.
But yeah, like he was wrecked because obviously some of those shoots you were doing night shoots, right?
Yeah. So man, there were so many injuries. I got my eye sliced open and just crap happened everywhere. It wasn't fun by the end of it, really. So
Yeah.
not glamorous at all, man. Yeah.
So
Yeah.
okay, well let's talk about the eye incident. So what happened? What were you doing? You were obviously doing some
Um,
choreography.
So this is during second unit. So second unit is the action director. So the main
Mm.
unit's pretty much finished. So all the main actors have done. So Brad Allen, the late Brad Allen, he
Yeah.
came on to direct. And then there was like, I think there was too many chefs in the kitchen because there was 5 action directors. So there was
Wow.
a lot of tension. So sometimes,
Yep. Yep.
but yeah. So what we do, we're doing a 2-man set. I think Jimmy was with David. I was with another guy. It's a battlefield. We're doing choreography. So you got like a few minutes to work out your choreography. So you go, rolling 3, 2, 1 action. Do your 10-second choreography, then reset back up again. Because usually with the main unit, you get like a 2-minute rest. You chill
Yeah.
out, put your mask back on, put it back on. This was just bang, bang, bang. So by the fifth one, I think we're all out of position because we're so tired. And then I went for a duck. I see Jimmy with his big stick up high. I'm looking, and we're both going, oh fuck! And he swung because he was supposed to hit David. I was in the wrong position, and he hit me under the helmet, sliced me open, and I was on the ground, knocked out for about a few seconds, blood everywhere. And it's the only time that they called cut. I stopped production. Must have cost them a few $1,000s, and then I got sent to Blacktown Hospital.
Yeah.
And then I came back because I think it was pizza day. Pretty good pizzas. Got like 4 stitches right here. So, yeah, that was a good experience. Good thing.
So it was actually Jimmy. It was actually Jimmy that smacked you.
He smacked the crap out of me. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, no.
He was up. Bang. I don't know how he got me because my helmet has a little groove.
Yeah.
So it's supposed to protect my eye, but he got under just enough and he sliced it open. It's a stick as well. It's not even a sword.
Yeah.
Yeah, good memories. But the main actors were next few days. I was known as the guy that got his eyes cut open. So a few of the actors actually approached me. I was like, oh, that's pretty good.
That's the highlight, right?
Yeah.
So, look, I'll tell you something funny about Jimmy. So Jimmy is like he's walking destruction, right? Like when I say that.
Yeah. I've hung up with
So one time we went to I think it was a foot out or something like that, and he's jumping on the trampoline, and literally this is like in the first 2 minutes of being in foot out, right? And so he's like done this massive cannonball from one trampoline to another trampoline, landed on some guy's ankle. Right?
No.
So sprained some guy's ankle, and Jimmy's just like bounced off because he was cannonballing all over the place. So he's bounced off, and I'm looking at this poor guy clutching his ankle, like with a massive dirty look on his face, and I'm like, Jimmy, I think you just broke that guy's ankle. And I'm like, dude, are you all right? And so he's hobbled off, and Jimmy's just gone back to bouncing away. So yeah. So of all people, like I'm not surprised that it was that it was Jimmy that got me.
Because David's the calm one. So.
Yeah. So very, very interesting, right? Like they're polar opposites, those brothers.
Yeah. When I first met them, I did not know they were brothers. It was just completely different. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. But for the scene that I think we auditioned for, was it for the hook swords?
Yep. Okay. So you did hook swords. Yep.
Is that what you auditioned for as well?
I didn't. I only had no. So my thing was different. I got called to do be a bouncer in the Fight Club.
Yeah. Because the one I think I might not have met you there because I think the audition we did was for the throne room scene with Tony Leung. Okay. So we did 2 weeks of sword choreography.
Yep.
And then you can pretty much see my ugly face in that whole scene, even in so
that's good.
It was brutal training. It was like only 2 weeks. So 2 weeks, and then you filmed, and then that was it. And it wasn't until so that was February. It wasn't until August they called me back. They needed more bad guys.
Yeah.
So I came in with 9 other dancers, not martial artists, dancers. And these dancers thought the movie was going to be a dance battle movie.
Oh, no way. Yeah.
Yeah. So, but the thing with dancers is that they pick
body movement.
Yeah. They pick stuff up really quickly, and these guys are amazing. And now I'm really good friends with them as well. I was like, what are these guys going to do? But man, they showed me up really. So
yeah.
Yeah. And yeah, with Shang Chi, I thought I was good at kung fu.
Yeah.
Man, after seeing everyone on set, I'm like scraping the bottom of the barrel, really.
I think there's there's almost like 3 different styles of kung fu. Like when I say that, I'm not talking about like the individual styles and the different names. What I'm saying is that there's the performative aspect. So performing, whether it's individual forms or choreography. That requires, obviously body control, timing, and movement.
Exactly, yeah.
Then a different aspect of Kung Fu would be like the combative aspect. So, actually using it in self-defense and fighting and those sorts of things. And then the other aspect, I guess, is like the philosophy side of it, right? Like there's 3 different sort of layers to every. I would say it's not just Kung Fu; it's every martial art has those sort of distinct layers. But what is the focus of any particular art? It really depends. Some schools focus more on that performative aspect and the forms and the demonstrations and the choreography. Other schools focus more on the fighting. So, they want it to be more realistic and thought oriented. And then, other schools might focus more on that, philosophical and meditative aspect. Does any of those particular styles resonate more for you?
For me, it's more about the combat. So put me in a fight, I reckon I could do a bit of damage. But what I've realized is the control of my body, it's not there. When I say, if I want, say like Taekwondo kickers, if they can hold their leg up high, because they train for that. When I tried to hold my leg up 6 months ago, I couldn't hold my leg up at all. I didn't have the strength in my glutes or my legs. I could kick hard, but it was just more momentum. So I realized I can fight, but control-wise, it's not there. So it kind of made me feel like crap, really. But what's happened now is that I've actually got a few new coaches. The head of one of the best Silat coaches who taught Simu how to do a bit of Silat in the movie. I'm actually training with him once a fortnight now, Mokujul.
Okay.
Just to learn, because he's got the Silat movement, it's got this up and down flow, really, really flowy and very nice and smooth. So I was like, oh man, that's awesome. And now I'm training with two of the girls that were in the movie to do wushu. So they're teaching me some new moves as well. It's just opened me up to like, yeah, I'm not that great at all. Like there's so much more to learn. And I'm 41, man. So there's only so much time I have left before I can, my body starts to break down again. Because about 10 of us went on to do a stunt course. We're still doing a stunt course. We're still trying to get a certification and stuff. So that's where I realized my body control wasn't that great. Like with the wire work, you need to be able to flip your body around. You need to be able to do a basic flip, which I've never really learned before as well. So there's the performative side, which the fighting side I'm quite proficient at. It's I think the performative side where I want to kind of get much better at as well. The philosophical side, it's always been there. It depends on your teacher, really. You learn what you can from them and they'll instill it into you. So I think with my Sifu was just try hard, do the best you can be. And then when he passed away, my new Sifu, Josh, and he's been in the stunt industry for a long time as well. He's kind of been like a bigger brother to me, really. So he's been just teaching me a bit of the stunt world as well and how to interact with people in the stunt community. So he's been more of a brother and a teacher as well.
So then from your martial arts school side of things, are they comfortable with you going and training elsewhere and doing all those kinds of things, or?
Yeah. I asked because I know some schools are very they're frowned upon you going to but no, I think it's the best thing you can ever do. You don't stick to one style. Like Bruce Lee, grab the best bits, just mash it together and create your own style, really. Like even with my own students and my own clients, as they learn the basics and they get better and better, they'll start to develop their own style. And then I'll be like, if you want to get better at this, maybe try this other martial art and try to incorporate it into a bit more as well. So I think like with boxing and Taekwondo and stuff like that, it's good to learn the basics and then just build upon it on the way there as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay. And I have to ask this because Nancy told me to throw this in there. She wants to know when you're getting married because your grandma wants kids.
No comment, mate. No comment. Soon. So when COVID's over, we'll see.
When COVID's over. Oh. don't say that. You're gonna get yourself into a hole.
Pretty much, man.
All right. I guess I don't want to take up too much of your time, but is there anything that you want to ask me about, or is there anything else you want to talk about?
Yeah, just the style that you and Jimmy and David do. What type of style is it? Or
so it's a Shaolin style. So I guess from a history perspective, right? There's Northern Shaolin and then there's Southern Shaolin. So the style that we do is a South Shaolin style called Uzu Chen. So 5 ancestors fist. Basically, nowadays the temple is based in Fujian, in a place called Chenzhou. So that's like I guess the main sort of city, that they say that the style is from. So a lot of all the monks basically in Chenzhou city and around Fujian will practice 5 ancestors fist. So one of the cool things about Uzu Chen is that the first form that we learn is called Sanzan, which means 3 battles, or Sanchin, if you speak Kano or whatever. And that form is actually featured in a lot of karate styles and other styles.
right.
So I guess the sort of story goes was that when this style was developed or whatever, people would travel across from Fujian across the ocean to Okinawa, and it's the foundation of a lot of Okinawan karate styles.
Okay.
Sanchin or Sanzan is classified as like a black belt form for them, but that's actually the first form that we learn in 5 ancestors fist. So why is it called 5 ancestors fist? Is because there was 5 masters that they sort of pulled the knowledge from. So it includes obviously the monkey style, White Crane, Lohan, who was a monk, Datmo, another monk, and Taizu, who was an emperor. So in the forms, there are movements from each of those different things. And depending, there's a couple of different main line. I would say there's 2 main lineages or lineages, however you want to pronounce it. So the ones that practice in Chenzhou, so the more Chinese style, is more of a Taizu lineage, right? The ones that practice in Malaysia, Australia, and the UK is more the same lineage as my master's lineage, which is a White Crane style lineage. So even though we have very similar forms, so when we play our Sanchin versus or Sanzan versus the Chinese Sanchin or Sanzan, the beginning movements look very similar, but the focus and the emphasis is actually very different, because Taichu or Taicho is very, I would say, it requires a lot of tension. So they play with a lot of like tense movements, whereas the White Crane side plays with a lot of softer movements. So yeah, so that's sort of, I guess, the history in a very small nutshell. How it came to Australia was Master James Chi, his father had migrated from China to escape the war into Malaysia. Was living in a city in Malaysia called Dungun, so like a very sort of remote sort of country town. And I think the story goes that there was another Master Yap Ching Hai, who's passed away, but he came and sought him out, and I guess not really. I don't know if it was a challenge or a friendly challenge, but basically, wanted to encourage him to come out and start teaching again. And so after that, then they moved to KL and then started to build up, the school there. And Master James is one of the sons, and he decided when he was 21 to make his own life. So he thought he would come to Australia, and so came and lived migrated to Australia and started to grow his family here, and started teaching. So that's how I met Master James. So I met Master James back in, I think it would be 98. No, Yeah, it would have been like 1998 or 90. Yeah, somewhere around that, I think. Yeah, and then so I trained with him from that age. So I would have been 14 at the time. Yeah, so that would have been 98. Yeah, so I trained him from when I was 14, basically up until would have been maybe wait, where are we? We're 2021. So I would have stopped. So I stopped teaching and training with him probably the start of last year, I think it was. So we just have a slightly different philosophy on things, and so he's more of the traditional mindset. So it needs to be his way, and so I respect that. So as a result of that, I have to step down because I want to pursue other things. So yeah, so I train a bunch of different things nowadays. Obviously difficult to train in COVID era, but yeah, so I train some Muay Thai, and I also train Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu as well.
Nice.
But I feel like all those things they help. When I say they help, having that background in Chinese Kung Fu has helped my understanding, and it also allows you to apply different lenses to the philosophy over it. Because I think and so you'll see this from doing PT, right? Like that, you'll look at biomechanics and body structure in a specific way, right?
Yeah.
And then from the Kung Fu side of things, you'll also look at biomechanics and body structure in a different way because they're different philosophies. It doesn't mean that it doesn't mean that one's right or wrong. Like, okay, based on Western medicine and Western science, you would say the Western understanding is correct. So I think but it's not to say that the Eastern philosophy is wrong. I think it's just because the language is different. So when you communicate in Chinese, it's very different to communicating in English. So how we describe things and how direct the language is very different as well. So when you give an instruction that might be originally in Chinese and then you're translating it to English, those things are lost in translation. So you might say that, okay, we want to I guess a basic example would be like, let's say we want to apply tension through our shoulders, right? So we say we want tension to be through our shoulders, but the hands to be soft, right? So if you say that in, I guess, English, you'd be like, oh, tense your shoulders and relax your wrist, right?
Yeah.
Whereas that might be the direct translation from Chinese, but when you apply it from thinking about Western concepts of biomechanics and things like that, you'd be like, okay, to tense your shoulders is not just about flexing your muscles. It's about, maybe it's about torquing your shoulder blades so that you've now got that additional rigidity and you're activating more muscles, which is then going to provide you with a strong structure, right? So they're the things that I think that get lost in translation. And it's not to say that one's right or wrong, because I guess unless you're talking about for competition and you're talking about for fighting, then there's only one way to test, and that's through competition and fighting, right? And if you do that, well, in the current day, you look at mixed martial arts, you look at the UFC One Championship, people have a blended style. Like there's guys in One Championship, so I think Team Lakai from the Philippines, who are a Sundar base or Wushu base. And you see it in their kicks, I think Kevin Bellinjon is one of the fighters. He throws like this wicked, spinning back kick that you obviously take from the Wushu side of things. But they have a blended style. So they're not just training that, they're also training the jiu-jitsu and the wrestling, because you need to be able to, compete against all those different facets. And so I feel like, and that's where one of the things that I guess I feel a bit remiss about Chinese martial arts is because the common thinking in Chinese martial arts is that every generation you're losing more martial arts, right? Because people always think back and say, oh, grandmaster could do this and great grandmaster could do this and that and whatever else. It's a diminishing mindset, because at the end of the day, let's say even if you just take your direct master and your direct master is 100%, right? And you can never learn more than him, the maximum, and let's say you're his best student and you can only get to 80%, right? So now you're 80%, and then if you go and teach the next generation of students, and then they can only get to your 80%. Well, reality is that compared to the original now, you're only 64% of what was originally taught.
Yeah.
So that's one of the things that I think, requires outside thought and outside perspective.
Yep.
And so to actually, develop things so that it's rather than diminishing the art over time, you're actually improving it.
Exactly.
You need to have that alternative mindset. And that's where I think, styles like, like Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu and Jiu-Jitsu in general has changed dramatically over the last 10 years. When what you see in competition, from 10, 15 years ago versus what the game is played now are two very distinct games.
Yes.
So as a result of that, it's not to say that these people are better than the others. It's just to say that the game is getting refined based on the rules.
Exactly.
Every style has, or every, I guess, competition, if it's boxing, boxing has its rule set. And so it develops a certain style. Kickboxing, likewise, develops a certain style. Wrestling develops a certain style. All of these things develop a certain style just because of the rule set and the structure that you put them in.
Yes.
But you remove the structure, they're all actually the same. Whether it doesn't matter whether you train Wutu Chen or you train Jiao Ga. A long fist is a long fist, a short fist is a short fist, a front kick is a front kick. You can call it whatever name you like, but essentially the movement is the same, right? Yeah. So it's the structure that it exists within that's different, and the philosophy that's behind it that might be different. So yeah. Anyway, I'm sorry, I went on a pretty long-winded rant.
No, which makes like Kung Fu itself is a philosophy in itself. It's not, I guess, it's not tried and tested in combat arena really. It's a sport where you learn to better yourself really. So that's where like the strict thinking, I think, kind of just restricts it a lot sometimes as well. So you just got to use it and develop yourself really, if you can.
Yeah, that's right. And that's not to take away from any of the positive aspects of it. I think there are many really good positive aspects, because for anything to grow, it actually needs structure, right?
Yeah.
So right. You need, when you start out at anything, if it's just anarchy, you're never going to be able to understand anything or learn anything, because everything is just none of it makes any sense. So that's why you need to have these different lenses that you can apply over these things to then go and, okay, let's review it. Because if we apply this lens and we can review the information, we can now then make better decisions. And we keep refining those decisions and refining those lenses, and that's how you refine the art. And once you've gotten to that point where with that one lens, if you can't see anything else out of it because it's only showing it to you at 2 times magnification, you might need a different lens. You might need a lens with 5 times magnification, 10 times magnification. And then, sometimes using that 10 times magnification lens, you need to actually go back and just look at it without any lens to actually understand it better.
Yeah, so that's where like me being on the movie, and then now me wanting to expand as much as possible, because I learned that I wasn't that great at all. So so it's good to step back and just look at other people and see, what you can learn from them as well.
Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah, I 100% agree with that. And look, I think for me, 10 years ago, my ego wouldn't have handled that. Exactly. One of the stories that I like telling was that so I did some mixed martial arts competitions while I was training Kung Fu, and nice. So my very first fight I won, and I think that as a result of that, it actually instilled worse things in me than if I had lost, right? Yeah. Because I had won before, my subsequent loss in the next fight was, well, it wasn't that I did anything wrong. It was like, it was just bad luck, right? So rather than looking at it critically and going, hey, what are the things that I need to analyze and do better at? Why did I end up losing? Versus, I would instead go, but I can win because I've won before, right? It could have been a fucking fluke, right? Yeah. So this is where you can get stuck in bad feedback loops, because and this is where sometimes having success too early in the piece doesn't make you actually appreciate the things that you need to go through to get better, right? Yeah. So I look at it now and I think at 37 I'm a much better martial artist than I was 10 years ago, right?
Same.
That's how I look at it, right?
Yeah.
So,
Definitely, yeah. I've been practicing completely differently, just because different mindsets from different people. You just can't be stuck in the one system where you're all the way through it, really. So
yeah, you need challenge, right? Just like how if you want to get buff, you gotta push yourself and go through that uncomfortable stage to
yeah,
get
exactly.
the muscle growth, hypertrophy, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Otherwise, you're just flopping around.
Yeah. All right. Cool. Did you have anything else you want to talk about?
No, not that I can think of. Not yet. Probably when I go to bed, I'll probably have another 100 questions. But
If that's the case, we can always catch up and do it again.
yeah, for sure, definitely, mate. This was fun.
Right.
Yeah.
I appreciate you coming on such short notice, and tell people how to find you.
Yeah. So my business is Apex Fit. You can find me on Instagram at Jimmy_Trieu_PT. I work at North Sydney Fitness First. So if you can, try some free lessons at Australian Jalgai Academy, and just see if you can kick some stuff. Really. But yeah, appreciate it, Johnny. This was good. Yeah.
All right. Thank you for coming on, and we'll catch up soon. Hopefully, when all this lockdown stuff's over, we can actually hang out and do some things.
Yeah, we'll bring David and Jimmy as well. So.
All right, done.
Yeah.
All right, cool.
That's
I'll end
good.
this.
Cheers,
Hang
mate.
on.